Hi everyone, I hope you're all good. So in today's video we're doing a follow along box splits or hip opening stretch video. It's about 15 minutes long, so you literally just need to copy the movements I'm doing and you're good to go. With this I'd recommend you do it 2 or 3 times a week and then do it consistently for a few weeks and you'll start seeing results, and hopefully your splits will get lower and your kicks will get higher. So if you have any questions or you want to see any more of these types of videos, comment that below, and yeah, we'll just get straight into it. So whenever I stretch out, whatever my focus is, I always work on my hamstrings first. It's just because your hamstrings are linked into so many different aspects of your flexibility, especially with box splits. When your legs are really wide out, you'll feel your hamstring having a bit of strain. Then you need to have a good amount of flexibility in there, and they need to be properly warmed up before you do any kind of flexibility. So focus on those. So you'll notice that sometimes when you do your hamstring stretches, your hips kind of push back slightly, and that means that the stretch is less intense for you. So whenever you're stretching, just keep in check that your hips and your feet are all in line, so you're getting the optimum stretch that you can do. So what you'll notice a lot of the time is I kind of lean my hands forwards rather than put them straight to my toes. I lean them a bit further forward just to try and keep my legs in line. So what I'm doing here is I'm just popping my body weight down as much as I can, trying to keep my legs as extended and straight as possible, and just generally good posture and form. From here, what we're going to do is lift up one of our legs. The reason being is that we kind of focus all of our energy on the leg that's being stretched. So the leg that's being stretched at the moment is on the floor, and that's the kind of position that your leg's going to be in when you're doing your side kicks and your roundhouse kicks if you're martial artists. And all of your pressure is going to kind of be on there. So try and get your body as straight and as low down to the base leg knee as possible, just because that's where you're going to get your best stretch. And then I isolate the legs once more, but this time just keeping them both on the floor with one leg bent at a time, and just really relaxing into it. The more you kind of tense up, as in, you know, in yourself, when you're stretching, that's when you're going to get injury. So really try and focus on your breathing, relax into the stretches, and then you'll see that you'll get much deeper into them in a nice calm way. Finally, I just finish by, if you're flexible enough, pulling yourself into your hamstrings and into your legs as much as possible, and then you'll be good to go to carry on for the rest of the stretch. So following this, we're going to put our legs out 2 or 3 shoulder widths apart, and we're going to keep them really nice and straight and just lean our body weight forward. Once again, we're kind of pushing back on our hamstrings, warming them up before we go any deeper into any of these stretches. Slowly move your body weight from side to side and start moving your weight around, especially feeling it in your hips and your inner thighs and everything like that, just so we're really warming up all of your legs. And then we're going to slowly move our body weight one side to the other until we eventually sit into a side lunge on one side. So when we're doing this, what you want to be doing is turning the extended leg up as much as you can. So rather than your foot kind of being at this angle, it needs to be up, and then we're going to experiment with changing our foot position. So we have it flexed, our toes pointed, and then our toes pulled back as though you're doing like a front kick or something like that. So really experiment with those positions and kind of put your weight in and out, towards the ground, towards the back of the room, the front of the room, really, so you're warming up all different parts of your hip. And then we're going to swap over to the other side and do the exact same thing. So as I say, just experiment with where you put your body weight, just because we're going to open up so much range of motion rather than just focusing on like one muscle at a time. We're kind of opening everything up altogether. And with martial arts or gymnastics, whatever you practice, it's not as though our legs kind of just go in one position. They're very much adaptable and flexing around and all of this kind of thing. So it's really important that we warm up as much around the hip as possible. So now to further really open up our range of motion, what we're going to do is turn our hip position and turn our foot position on our extended leg. So really focusing on slowly moving your body around, and whenever you do any of these exercises, make sure it's really slow, especially because you're trying to get a really deep stretch. You don't want to be doing anything too quickly, because that's where you're going to get tears and injuries and all of that kind of thing. So a nice slow motion, we're going to turn our foot position over and our hips round, and you'll feel that opening out and flexing and stretching all the different areas of your hip and your inner groin, ready for you to achieve a really nice low box split. So really focus on doing that very, very slowly, and this is such a good stretch for opening out your hips. So now we're going to work on our center lunge. So what we need to do here is have our feet facing outwards, and then we need to be driving our hips as forward as possible. So the best way to do this is by tensing up your glutes and really pushing and driving your hips forward. This is going to really open out your hips, ready for that box split. So the next stretch is a butterfly stretch. This is so good for box splits. So what you're going to do is have your feet together and your knees out to the side. What I do is I isolate one knee at a time, because this makes a much more intense stretch on that individual hip as opposed to sharing the energy between both. So one leg at a time, have that knee on the floor, and then you're going to slowly move the other knee towards the floor, but make sure you focus all your energy on keeping the knee that is on the floor on the floor. So what I do is I tense that hip and tense that groin as much as I can with the knee that is on the floor, and then we're just putting a bit of energy pushing down on the other side. You'll notice that this really opens out your hip beautifully for those higher kicks. When I'm doing this stretch as well, you'll notice that I kind of like either hunch my body over or I push my chest out, and once again that's because I'm opening up as many different areas around my hip as possible. You'll find a lot of people just arch their back in one position when they do a lot of their box split stretches or hip opening stretches, and it just limits their range of motion because they're only stretching one part of their hip as opposed to the whole part of their hip. So as many different positions you can get into in terms of stretching your hips, much better for improving your overall range of motion. Once we've isolated both sides, then we're going to do both at the same time, pushing those down as much as we can towards the ground and try and get that flat butterfly position. But that takes a lot of time and practice, but over a few months you will get there. So the next stretch we're going to do is the frog split stretch, which I believe is the best way to open out your hips ready for a box split. So we're going to separate our knees as much as possible, have our knees, hips and bum all in line as much as possible, just because that's where you're going to get the most open stretch. From here we're going to calmly put our body forward and put our body weight kind of on our arms, but you also want to put a bit of pressure on each hip as you're going further down into that stretch. From here we can experiment with either arching our back, which you'll see most people do, and then tensing it over, which is what I generally do, because once again this opens up that whole range of motion around your hip. From here what we're going to do is slide our body weight forwards and backwards. The reason being is we're going to work around that whole hip, and I know I keep saying that, but this is where you're going to get that deepest stretch. Work your body weight forwards and then push back. When we're pushing forwards and back, really tense up your glutes. People don't realise how important glutes are in terms of activating their box split and their open hips. So tense your glutes as you slide forward and tense your glutes as you push back, and that will really open up your hips, ready to get a deep split. Now what we're going to do is crawl from one side to the other in our box split. So when we crawl over, really slowly do this because you don't want to get an injury, and then just put all of your body weight over to that one knee. Really tense up that groin on that side as well to get that really deep stretch, but only do it to discomfort, don't do it to pain. Then from here what we're going to do is just lean all of our body weight forward, try and get our chest as flat to the ground as possible. You can either rest your head on your arms like this or lean them both forward, whatever's most comfortable for you, but just make sure you're keeping that really good alignment with your bum, knees and hips. And then finally, to finish off our box split sequence, if you're feeling up to it, what you can do is extend your arms from the floor and then push your chest out as much as possible, just for a much more advanced and deep stretch. And then I start turning each hip in individually just to further open those up. The next stretch is the single leg frog split. So what you're going to do is start off with your knees together and slowly slide one of your legs out. That extended leg, you can either have it with your foot in a psychic blade, pointed, relaxed, whatever you want, as long as your whole body is relaxed, you're not tensing up too much where you're in any kind of pain. From here, what you're going to do is just start shuffling your weight around, making sure you're really comfortable, and then you're going to turn your foot from this position up, and you're really twisting your whole hip over, and you'll find that your range of motion, when you practice this loads and loads of time, it gets so much better. So turn it from here to here, here to here, and really focusing your energy on that one hip that's twisting over. And then from here what you're going to do is just shuffle your body weight from each side slowly, just making sure that all of your legs getting stretched out and you're good to go. From here, we're just going to rotate our hips, or we're going to push them out in each direction, whatever you feel most comfortable with, just before we start going into our really deep box split stretches. So firstly, we're just going to go into our standing straddle and move our body weight round one side to another. Really push back on those hamstrings as well, because that's why we warmed those up earlier. We're going to kind of re-engage those, ready for our deep stretching. And then we're going to go just lower and lower and lower really slowly until you're at a nice comfortable position. I usually go to about 80% the first time I go into my box split, rather than jumping straight in at 100 because I don't want to give myself any injury. So a nice 80% stretch, keep your legs in a nice good position, your body's not arching too far back or forward, it's nice and neutral, and just relax there. You should try and hold this for about 30 seconds to a minute. Whenever people say about only holding a split for 8 to 15 seconds, it's not long enough to make a lasting result. So try and go for 30 seconds plus each time. So the second time now we're going into the stretch, we're going to try and go as low as we can, but this time, once we get to the bottom of our stretch, we're going to bring our feet up like this. This is because it just gives a bit of more of a tense stretch, and especially for those who do quite powerful higher kicks in whatever sport they do, this is going to get your kind of legs used to tensing up in a wide position, as opposed to kind of just having a relaxed body motion in that deeper part of your stretch. So we're going to hold that up. If you're extremely flexible and you can get right down to that box split, kind of hold your body weight up a bit and then push down, tensing your hips. If not, just relax into the stretch nice and calmly, just so you're not rushing any motion or injuring yourself. And then from here, we're going to sit down into our straddle. You want to be at about 85 to 90% of your straddle here. Once you're nice and relaxed, you've kind of got your body weight going in each different direction, we're going to completely lean over to one side and just hold that for about 8 to 15 seconds. Really nice and calm, focus on your breathing. It's so important that your breathing's really in control, because as soon as it goes out, then that's when you're going to start getting injuries, because your body's kind of jolting around and you're not relaxed enough to relax physically into the stretches. So reach into both sides, push even more out into your box split. So this way you're going to start going up to 90 to 95% of your maximum stretch. And then we're going to start turning our hips down and up. So really twisting them over, both legs at the same time. And we're going to go from our upright position like this and twist it down close to the floor. So you want to do that about 5 or 10 times. Really open out your hips, ready for the stretch, and then you'll be good to go. So finally, we're going to be in about 95 to 100% of our box straddle, and we're just going to lean our body weight forwards. Make sure with your feet that they're not bending over too much like this, they're still upright whilst our body is going forward. Relax into that position, focus on your calm breathing, and then once you're ready to and your legs feel up to it, slowly bring them in. And whenever you come out of any of these stretches, as slow as you can, because you don't want to have any kind of injury. So now we've been quite intense on our legs and we've opened them out to their almost maximum. All we need to do is give them a bit of a nicer treatment, so massage them down a bit, just do some nice slow motions but still pushing that range of motion, just so they calm down a bit after such an intense lot of stretching. So I push my hips back, rotate my hips, massage the insides and outsides of them, just so they're going to stay healthy rather than going from an absolute maximum to nothing. That's pretty much it for this video, so thanks very much for watching. If you enjoyed it, make sure you like and comment, subscribe, all of that kind of thing, and go to all of my other social media, which is below. And if you have any other video suggestions, any other follow-alongs you want, whether that be with weapons, kicks, classes, other flexibility things, then let me know and I will get on those. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.